Thank you all. Randy's going to introduce himself, so I will turn it over to Randy.
Well, here we are, all you lucky, lucky people. I was a psychologist for over 5 decades, and I taught in colleges and universities and had a private practice. And I saw many murderers and rapists and child abusers and a lot more ordinary people. So to start off, meaningfulness. You and I are like a drop of water in a mountain stream. We will eventually meld into the all-embracing ocean. But today, we will explore, at least briefly, the impermanence of our existence. You and I are very insignificant. So, I want to begin to consider, in a kind of broad way, first, time. Give us some context and perspective. For each of us, time is just a moment in our consciousness. When we die, our consciousness will be shattered, obliterated. Nothing before and nothing afterwards. Yet time is infinite. It's never ending. We aren't even a tiny blip on the time scale. And at the same time, we are unaware of our limitation. We are aware of only a tiny fragment of time. In one sense, we were making molehills out of mountains, not the opposite. We have had 5 ice ages in the history of our planet. 5. And in each, 70% of mammals went extinct by the end. More complex species are more easily erased. And it could happen again. It could. An asteroid strike or volcanic eruptions could send dust into the air and produce another ice age. Just below the Earth's thin crust is hot liquid, lava, that can come rushing out, and that lava is miles thick. Or the end could be due to human problems. Could be thermonuclear bombs. And you know, U.S., Russia, China, and at least 20 other countries have them. That's scary. And even more countries have chemical and bacterial weapons that are equally deadly. But use of one of these would leave all the infrastructures intact. Could some leader near the end of his or her life, someone who sees humans as maybe an infestation on our planet, could one of those decide to take all of us with him or her? And you and I are so insignificant. We have no way of stopping them. No way. the more complex species do die off more easily. We must have sunlight, oxygen, earth, water. I believe we live on the edge of a cliff and we don't realize it. Our species has learned to look the other way. We deny. That's what Sigmund Freud and dozens of other prominent psychologists believe. Okay, time. There was an unlimited amount of time before us, an infinite amount, and there will be an infinite amount of time after we die, or after the earth is gone and disappeared. Are we really that important? Every once in a while, reality tilts, and we realize we have been looking at only a tiny fragment of the whole. And another side of the mystery of meaningless. I have a meaningful marriage. I have sons. I have friends. However, I remain searching for ways of feeling and doing other important things, other relationships, other projects in other places. Is it possible at this stage in your life that you could make changes that could bring more value, more interest, more motivation for you to make even a slight change? Perhaps it is possible. As you think on it, maybe you could make changes. Could you? With this talk, I could perhaps make some of you uncomfortable, fearful, or irritable, but it might be worth it. A new discovery, mental discovery, that will make your life more pleasurable. Remember, 1,000 years from now, you and I will be totally, irretrievably gone. We have been alive not even 100th of a second on the eternal time scale. Whew. Space is another part of the picture. Are we a major part of space? Our Earth is part of the Milky Way. And the Milky Way contains 100 billion planets that could nurture life. And there's somewhere in the region of 500 billion galaxies. There's an extremely high probability that other galaxies have intelligent life forms, some perhaps much more intelligent than us. So, we are only a very, very, very tiny part of a fragment of space and time and matter. But it is only you and I alone who can assign meaning to our lives. We can live in the shadow of death. We do live in the shadow of death. That's exactly why I am writing and presenting these ideas. I am collecting ideas, adding my own, and trying to make a cohesive whole out of it all. This is not just an exercise for me. It is something I must do. It is my quest. I honor diversity, and I believe the truth cannot be found in common ideas and behavior. That's the end of the time issue. Let's look at matter. Matter, the University of Auckland's technique called gravitational microlensing measures the number of Earth-sized planets that orbit twice the Sun-Earth distance. That results in a list of planets that are generally cooler than the Earth, but by interpolating between this list, astronomers hope to generate a more accurate list of Earth-like planets. They anticipate a number in the order of 100 billion. One prominent scientist has maintained. And here is a combination of space, matter, and time. If the Milky Way contains 100 billion Earth-like planets, and there are somewhere in the region of 500 billion galaxies, there is an extremely high probability that other life, intelligent life, is present. How could we get to those planets? Or alternatively, how could the residents of those planets get to us? That remains a big question. The nearest possible habitable planet is Tau Ceti, which is 11.9 light years from Earth. The fastest spacecraft ever, Helios 2, traveled at 43 miles per second. At that speed, it would take 51,000 years for a spacecraft to reach Tau Ceti. Our Earth seems quite alone. Okay, we've considered some factual information to provide a context for studying meaningfulness. Now that we realize how insignificant you and I are in this giant universe, how do we find meaning in our lives? Here are some solutions to bringing some meaningfulness in. Some of the things that we can do. Possible ways of finding new truths. First of all, it's your intentions that matter. They direct your mind, your speech, and your actions. They establish your priorities in life. You can intend to being rather than doing. What does that mean? You could drop everything, let go, enjoy for a moment. Take a deep breath, breathe again, smile. That's one thing. Meditation. If you learn how to meditate deeply, you will find that all emotions vanish. Thoughts are fuzzy and vague. You may feel some mild contentment. However, it will take some time for you to prepare for deep meditation. You must relieve yourself of the must-dos in your life. So that's one approach. Finding an approach with heart that you can be passionate about is another. Those who help others often feel especially good. But it can be anything that brings you joy and satisfaction. Another thing that you might do, another kind of solution, is to take stress breaks. Look for an opportunity to stop multitasking. When you sit down for breakfast, just concentrate on eating breakfast. Don't plan your day. You can use the relaxing reflex. That means smiling inwardly and signaling your own body that all is well. Take a deep breath and visualize your feet, your legs, your arms, your torso, your head, and relax. Another, walk around. This is bringing meaningfulness now. This can be in your living room or in your backyard. It may take only a few minutes, but it helps you break out of the stress cycle and helps with that new beginning. Simple things too. Make your bed in the morning. That's the first thing you should do. It gives you a sense of control from the very beginning. We all need to sense that we're in control somehow. Going back a few years, Confucius was a great philosopher who lived in China sometime between 651 and 479 BC. He believed firmly that an afterlife was beyond human comprehension. So don't let it matter. Confucius said, what matters is our conduct in ordinary life. It is best to avoid conflict and instead practice compassion, fidelity, and politeness. Compassion means having empathy and sympathy and benevolence. Fidelity means staying true to friends and partners and your children. And politeness, you know. One should endeavor to promote peace and harmony. At a time when power and greed were prominent guideposts for much of the world, this brilliant and courageous man put an emphasis on personal and government morality. Confucianism is a down-to-earth, realistic approach to a way of behaving and living. Compassion, fidelity, politeness, and work toward peace and harmony. I like it. Another point. The universe is totally meaningless. But the vast majority of humans deny the factual. Instead, people embrace socially approved positions. Yes, these positions are relative. Yes, they're restrictive. They're often stupid. But what can we do? Resist. But openly? No. The tribe cannot be changed. You have to keep your head down. Perhaps the best way of handling it is to have a glass of wine and smile. Life is absurd. It's so absurd. So laugh to yourself at how strange and ignorant and out of touch our society has become. And it always will be. It's a reality play. All the political and social events. So watch, and it's a play. So smile. Can you look at other pathways to find more meaning in your life? Hey, that's what philosophy is all about. We are separate beings. We're not like ants. We're not completely programmed. Learning is possible, although in some ways it's limited. But we must have the foundations of enough food, water, shelter. We must be comforted and fed. Could you stop some of the trivia today? You could prepare by telling others that you will not be available for a couple of days. That will give you time to make peace with yourself and get rid of some of the clutter in your mind. In some sense, that's the pleasantest way to live. But reality is not a singularity. Each time we think we have seen the whole, we stop for a moment, and it is revealed new vistas of truth, new horizons, new mysteries. These lead us to think that we have been looking at only a tiny fragment of our limited point of view. And let us be reminded that values are all relative. Values, relative. The 18th century philosopher David Hume said, "You cannot deduce aught from is." Hume meant we can find facts and verify them, and then use them to help us deal with things around us. But in the whole of the universe, there are no absolute values that can be logically inferred from facts. The universe is meaningless. It just is. Yes, it just is. Nothing more. The values that humans propose are all relative to their culture, to the particular century and year, and certainly the particular circumstances. What if a woman pulled out a knife and stabbed a man who spit on the sidewalk in front of her? What if a man burned down a neighbor's house because the neighbor had punched the bottom of the man's daughter? You know, it's confusing. Where is the line between right and wrong? You know, among the philosophers, Plato, Nietzsche, Mill, hundreds of others tell us we were born in a tribe, and the tribe insists that we talk the talk and walk the walk. Social pressures are very strong on the young and gullible and continue throughout life. But we are adults, and we know that we can question our beliefs. We can question their worth. It's actually those beliefs that we fight about. It is the moral differences that we believe in right and wrong that create the background for many wars. Many of you realize I was a psychologist for over 5 decades. Psychologists have credible evidence that human beings deny facts that they don't want to believe. And in many important areas, we just create an unreal world. Do we? Well, let's think. Could you regularly think and visualize your parents having sex together? Could you see that? Could you comfortably visualize your mother completely naked, or your father? Hey, that's how we fill in the blanks. We even vaguely believe that our species will go on and on forever. You know, if we thought that our species would not exist 100 years from now, would our thinking change? In a sense, we have a quest for eternal life because it seems to be, we seem to have an unwillingness to imagine the world without ourselves in it. Intellectually we know, but emotionally we need to deny. How very human. Must we act like we are blind and refuse to see that we are just puffing ourselves up? In many ways, we attempt to obliterate our finiteness, our insignificance. How do we do that? Obliterate our finiteness? Well, hey, I have a car, I have an apartment or a house, I have nice clothes, I have money in the bank, and many nice things that I have are better than others. You know, that's exactly what I am doing right now with this talk. Hey, I'm interesting people. I'm influencing you. I'm making you think. How I puff myself up and insist that I am important. I am, you know. You may think you're the center of the universe, but I am. Okay. Hey, I am an entertaining and logical intellectual, aren't I? From my point of view, breaking from the common mold is immensely sensible, reasonable. But the wise would advise us to be careful with what we say and do. The tribe will punish you if you breach a major taboo, or even if you ignore some common norms. You could be ostracized and alienated. You may say, "Oh, really? Ostracized? Well, alienated? Well, if you regularly leave feces on your floor or leave the kitchen stove on, you could find yourself declared incompetent. If you stand too close to people or touch them without their permission, you could be arrested and end up in court The tribe will get you if you don't watch out. So, go to hell and happy hunting and au revoir. And if you come to my house, you can spit on the floor and call the cat a bastard. Now, if any of you wish to live forever, please come forward after this talk and fill out an immortality application. The cost is $5,000, a bargain for infinite time you will receive at some finite time in the future. Besides which, with all time and effort it took me to prepare this talk, I need shall we say, a luxurious, elegant, and even opulent vacation. Maybe I should up the price of that application. That's all I have to say, folks. Comments?